My name is David Marshall Hunt. This is a reading of a segment of my newest novel, Flower Girl, a Burton family mystery. Chapter 1, A Haunting Dream. At the age of 4, a doctor and one of the nurses, both clad in white, walked into the dormitory at the orphanage where I was housed along with 3 other girls, ages 4 to 11. The place is called Parks Clinic and Home for Girls, and it is located on Jeju-do Island, a scenic, volcano-dotted island and popular wedding and honeymoon location off the southern coast of South Korea. Dr. Evil Park Sr. owns these facilities and another clinic in Seoul, and his eldest son, Evil Park Jr., assists in running them. The nurse, a matronly lady, checked each of us while Dr. Park supervised. She said, "Carrie Lee has a slight fever. I'll check back on her later." Dr. Park nodded, and the nurse made some notes to the clipboards at the end of our beds. I was feeling curious about what a slight temperature meant. The nurse said, "No need to worry, child. It's not malaria." Now that got me even more curious, and I could tell by Dr. Park's scolding finger wag and the nurse's holding her hand over her mouth that she had said something she should not have. She apologized more to Dr. Park than to me, saying, "I'm so sorry, doctor. It just slipped out." Dr. Park replied, "Your mother was critically ill with malaria and pregnant with you when your father drove her to our clinic in Seoul. Your father, tragically, died in a traffic accident that day, and we were not able to save your mother. However, we were able to save you." I had heard other girls talk in secrecy of their parents, making me curious. However, this was the first thing I was ever told of my parents' fate. It was later that very year that I began to be haunted by a dream. A man in black treads slowly up a steep trail on the side of a volcano on Jeju-do Island. The trail tracks like a knife wound through the lush green grasses that grow so high that nearly block his view until he reaches the cliffside. It looks out over the shimmering blue-green waters of the Korean Straits, the Sea of Japan bordering to the east, and the Yellow Sea to the west. A pair of gnarled trees bend in silent testimony to years of strong winds. Between the trees, the man stops and brushes away sand and twigs from around 2 granite stones standing side by side. The man kneels and places flowers next to the 2 stones. Tears flowing, he whispers something, but it's lost in the wind. In my dreams, from that year until I was 12, I saw the man in black repeat this ritual on every 2nd of June. I recorded these in my diary, which I kept in a mixture of Korean, my first language, and Arabic, which I began learning at age 4. My name is Carrie Lee. More correctly, it used to be Carrie Lee. Now I'm Shannon Lee Burton. Make that Dr. Burton. My closest friend and research colleague, Angie, loves to bat her eyelashes and say our looks are our ticket out of here. We are both 26 years old and stay fit running in the Berkeley Hills, which shows in her healthy bronze tan and my slightly sunburned look. We could pass for sisters in our property of Golden Bear Athletic Department, t-shirts and running shorts. However, that's where the similarity ends. I have short-cropped, flaming reddish-brown hair. Hers is long and usually blonde, in a ponytail when we're running. And I have gray eyes, and hers are emerald green. Angie and I have been best friends since the man in black dropped me off at the Bush School for Girls, a boarding school in Seattle. That was when we were both 12. Then he all but disappeared from my life for 5 years until I graduated, and he helped me move to Riverview, Illinois to attend university. Later, I migrated to UC Berkeley. The only person other than Angie that I have ever discussed what happened to me as a child with is Professor Dr. Maddie Morgan. Dr. Maddie was my favorite teacher, and I trusted her enough to open up to her about my misgivings as regards the man in black. She was my faculty advisor years ago, not to mention a long-legged blonde with cool blue-green eyes. Dr. Maddie and I sometimes use Skype for our virtual counseling sessions. Since I moved to Berkeley, on occasions like today, when it wasn't possible to meet face-to-face. A distorted face with a large nose glanced up at me, peering out over her reading glasses, like she was trying to find me in the little box on the laptop screen, as her soothing, deep voice said, "Let's pick up where we left off last session. Why don't you tell me about what happened that day when the man in black rescued you from the orphanage in Korea?" "Okay," I said. 3 days after my 12th birthday as Carrie Lee, I awoke, as I always did, to the sound of gongs ringing from a nearby temple. The dormitory I lived in was located in a compound at the western base of a volcanic mountain. The compound also had a hospital and a clinic run by Dr. Evil Park. From age 3 to 12, I lived and trained at the park's Home for Girls on Jeju-do Island. I learned Korean, Mandarin, and Arabic. I became adept at some martial arts, including stick fighting, which was taught at a nearby school where Dr. Park's youngest son, Sincere, who was 3 years older than me, also practiced. They also taught me etiquette and Muslim culture. The island was well known as a place for weddings and honeymoons. That morning, 9 other girls awoke and stirred around me in the dormitory. We were scheduled to serve as flower girls at a local wedding. Hot water went to the early birds, so we raced to the showers at the end of the hallway. I adjusted the warm water and lathered my body. Suddenly, all I could see was plywood splintering around me, plasterboarded cinder blocks smashing and giving way to a cloud of plaster dust. A large truck crashed through the west wall of the dormitory, nearly crushing one of the girls next to me in the showers. Its headlights illuminated the room in a yellow plaster powder. I was so shocked that I had no time to react. A man dressed in black with a stocking over his face came through the dust and grabbed my left arm and swung me over his shoulder, carrying me out into the cold morning dawn like a sack of grain and tossing me in the passenger's seat of the truck. He backed the vehicle out of the hole in the wall, the truck's wheels spinning on the ice and rainwater that covered the ground. Soon we were moving away from the clinic compound towards the waters of the Korean Straits and the Sea of Japan. The man in black wrapped a warm blanket around me, and it was only then that I noticed that I was naked, shivering and still wet and soapy. I had won the race to the showers. In a few minutes we reached a sandy beach, where the man in black drove the truck into the back of a strange boat-like craft. I was never to hear the morning gongs, nor see what had been the only home and family I had ever known on Jeju-do Island again.